The 80s and 90s are considered the era of action movies and fantasy. For them it was indeed a golden time. Many films in which few people believed collected a lot of money at the box office, and the number of stars who appeared out of nowhere exceeded all reasonable limits, but if you look carefully, not only these two genres settled under a brighter sun. In the second half of the 80s and early 90s, world cinemas were flooded with family comedies. At the box office, they collected more money than action films. It was during that period that one of the most famous Christmas family comedies appeared, in which no one believed, and it was believed that the Suicide Squad was working on it, but after the release of the film in cinemas, everything changed. The main character immediately became the richest child in Hollywood, and director Chris Columbus, who was needed by few people, suddenly became needed by everyone. I would like to mention the series Home Alone, which at the start broke many records, but then moved to DVD, where it was quietly buried, until the Disney studio found that grave. In order for Home Alone to turn out exactly like this, a lot of stars came together, a few wrong turns and the film could have turned out completely different at the end. Producer and screenwriter John Hughes wrote the script specifically for Culkin, with whom he worked on the film Uncle Buck. On the set of that film, Hughes was also the director and talked a lot with the actors. He was impressed by Culkin's talent to amuse everyone with his looks. Director Chris Columbus didn't get into Home Alone right away. John Hughes was looking to direct Christmas Vacation, the third film about the Griswold family. It was this film that was offered to Columbus and he agreed, but when he met and talked with the actor of the main role, Chevy Chase, he realized that they would not work and refused to offer. In those years, Hughes published scripts for family comedies one after another, and they almost always performed well at the box office, so Columbus did not want to refuse to work with Hughes and asked him about other projects. Then Hughes proposed the script for Home Alone, which was much less promising than a comedy with Chevy Chase, but after reading it, Columbus agreed. Although the script was written for Culkin, Columbus, who was not familiar with him, offered to hold a casting and audition other actors. Hughes agreed and Columbus auditioned more than 200 children, but in the end he came to the conclusion that Culkin was the ideal option. Despite the fact that the script was ready, Hughes was correcting it before the very start of filming. He was very worried about the film, thinking that they would be laughed at because no mother would believe that it is so easy to forget her child. Columbus said that Hughes sat over the script around the clock, painstakingly correcting all plot holes. The roles of robbers went to Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. There was no problem with Joe Pesci, who was signed for one of the main roles. He wanted to work in a purely comedy film and therefore signed the contract without even reading the script, but with Daniel Stern there was a problem. He was the first choice for the role, but he wanted a big salary that the studio could not afford due to the film's modest budget. In his place, Daniel Roebuck was invited, who agreed to act almost for free, but at the rehearsals with Joe Pesci there was absolutely no chemistry between the actors and it was very noticeable to everyone. In the end, the studio satisfied Stern's demands and took him in the role of Marv. From the first days of filming, Pesci and Stern grimaced a lot on the set. Because of this, you can see many caricature shots in the film. The actors admitted that they did not believe in the success of the film, so they decided to have fun and not deny themselves anything. Although the film was quite light, it was shot for 4 months. Test screenings of the film went well, but the film was still heavily edited. The fact is that the film had many episodes with Culkin's family, which was in Paris. Almost all footage was deleted, as the audience did not understand why the film was constantly interrupted in order to show them some people who were not at all interesting to them. They demanded more Kevin. It is a well-known fact that the composer for the film was John Williams, known for his work in the films, Star Wars, Jaws, and Indiana Jones. Williams himself applied for the film. Chris Columbus said that they had a very modest budget and had never considered a composer of this caliber, but Williams liked to look at rough versions of films in preparation and stumbled upon Home Alone. He really liked what he saw and offered his services to the producers for a modest fee by his standards. The film was released in November 1990, the Fox studio allocated 1,200 screens to it. It was assumed that, together with The Rescuers Down Under, One at Home will compete for second place in the charts, since the first place, without a chance for others, will be taken by Sylvester Stallone with his Rocky V. In its first weekend at the box office, The Rescuers collected $3.5 million, Stallone $14 million, and Home Alone $17, which was enough for him to take first place. The following week, Fox didn't add any screens to Home Alone anyway, as it booked 2,000 screens for Predator 2, which was supposed to be a big hit. Even without the expansion, Home Alone collected $20 million in its second week, and Predator 2 started only in fourth place. Only after that, the studio began to give more screens to Home Alone. As a result, the film earned $285 million at the US box office, and $477 million worldwide. With this figure, the film immediately entered the Guinness Book of Records as the highest-grossing comedy in the history of Hollywood. According to Chris Columbus, the actor John Jort was also dissatisfied with the filming of the film. He believed that they were making some kind of failed, useless film, which he told the director many times on the set, but after such a success, he came to Columbus and apologized for all his words. Columbus claims that he recorded the apology on camera and still keeps the tape. Although it was difficult to make a sequel for such a film, Columbus and Hughes were brought down by all the producers. In addition to the producers, all the fans also asked them to continue, and they agreed. Alone Again was considered as the primary title for the sequel, but while the script was being written, it was decided that the title was stupid and it was abandoned. Also, while working on the second part, Hughes wrote the script for the third, which the studio immediately approved. In it, Culkin was already a teenager. It turns out that everyone was sure of the success of the second film, even before filming began. The actress Catherine O'Hara asked to make changes to the script. She insisted that her heroine's role be expanded by adding several episodes. She felt that she was not worried enough about the missing Kevin and people simply would not understand her. Shooting at the airport became the most difficult. The authors needed the airport to work in the usual mode, and there were no problems with this in the first film, and already during the filming of the sequel, Culkin's popularity constantly interfered. Filming had to be stopped due to people constantly breaking through the barricades, who wanted to somehow touch Culkin, who was running away from them. Another interesting moment is related to filming in the hotel. In the lobby, one carpet was taken so that Culkin's hero could slide on the floor. When the filming ended, the hotel owner, Donald Trump, did not return the carpet to its place. It is believed that he enjoyed watching the hotel guests fall, but he claims that this was his favorite scene in the film, and he even forbade the repair of this floor in order to preserve the atmosphere of the film in the hotel. Director Chris Columbus was disappointed that they went out of budget because of the lack of snow in Central Park. A lot of money was spent on artificial snow, and a few days after the end of filming, New York was covered with real snow. $28 million have already been spent on the second part, $10 million more than on the first. The second part had no problems with the advertising campaign and the screens. She started from the first place, collected $31 million. What is interesting, in the second week of Home Alone rental, Aladdin and The Bodyguard got there and Home Alone 2 did not let them to the first place, but according to the results of the year, Home Alone earned $358 million and took the third place. The second, with a result of $410 million, was taken by The Bodyguard, and the first place, earning $504 million, took Aladdin. This is due to the fact that the audience considered the film a repeat of the first part. Although the earnings fell, it was at such a level that the sequel must be shot as early as tomorrow, but Hughes insisted that Culkin should grow up a bit, so that there would be some difference from the first two films. Therefore, the start of filming was planned for 1995. And here Culkin's maturation happened. His next film, Good Son, did not fail at the box office, but all subsequent films failed miserably. When Richie Rich failed at the box office, Culkin decided to take a break and leave the movies for a while so as not to bury his career. Although he was persuaded for a long time to make an exception for another part of Home Alone, Culkin refused the producers. With this development of events, the third part had to be abandoned, but the studio insisted that the script be reworked for a younger actor and come up with something. They wanted to come up with a spin-off about Kevin's brother, who was played by Kieran Culkin in the first films. This would allow them to use part of the family in the new film, but the main thing is the opportunity to bring Pesci and Stern back. And precisely because of them, this continuation option did not happen. They were not delighted with such a brilliant idea. After that, the idea of a series appeared in which a child fights off various criminals over the course of 24 episodes. Everyone started working in this direction. When part of the script was ready, it turned out that there was enough material for a full-length film, and the third part was sent to Conquer Cinemas. Of course, Chris Columbus was called into the director's chair, but he pretended to be very busy after reading the script. Instead of himself, he advised Raja Gosnell, who was an editor on Home Alone. This option was arranged by the studio. $32 million were allocated for the film, which made it the most expensive film of the franchise. The movie hit theaters in December 1997 and started only in fourth place, earning $5 million. Now you can often hear the opinion that the third part is not so bad, but in '97, the audience met the picture very coldly. After 2 weeks of release, the film dropped out of the top 10 and fell to the bottom. Although the film was a failure, with a budget of $32 million, it earned $79 million worldwide. The studio even made money on it. The fourth part was officially filmed as a pilot version for the series, which was to be released after its huge success. However, TV ratings were very low, so the show had to be cancelled. By the way, Stern was again offered to return to his role. The actor himself says that it was his biggest insult in his entire professional career. There is also a fifth part of the film, the score of which is 3 points out of 10, hints at the fantastic quality of the film, which is dangerous to watch even with your back blindfolded. And recently Disney pleased us with the sixth part of the film, which was originally supposed to be a remake, then a soft reboot, and then just had to be something. This masterpiece was assembled in a few days for the Disney Plus service, where it again broke some records, like the fact that 200 million people watched its poster. The audience rating of this film is stable, 3 out of 10. Let's be honest, it would be better if Disney did not find that grave. But considering that Home Alone has shown many times that he is unstoppable, maybe we will see some more masterpieces in the near future. Perhaps even in a more powerful quality, because whenever we think we're at the bottom, there's always a new part of Home Alone knocking from below.